Hello, my name is Rosemary Barajas, and my presentation of article critique is over workaholism, the addiction to work. To begin, the article describes workaholism as a compulsive and progressive behavior that can eventually become harmful. This comes from Robinson, Carroll, and Flowers in 2001. They explain that it isn't workaholism isn't just working long hours and hard. It's more when work starts to interfere with other areas of life. Research has linked workaholism to various negative factors such as burnout, stress, health problems, and death. This comes from various sources such as Anderson, Urson, Erickson in 2007, from Burke, Overclyde, and Burgess in 2004, and Robinson in 2000. Workaholism isn't something that only affects an individual, it also affects their family. And this comes from Chevron in 1999 and also Robinson and colleagues. And they explained that partners and children will begin to feel a strain as someone who begins to constantly focus on work. The article also mentioned about a 25 to 30% of workers in the US that may show signs of workaholism, and this is based on a statistic from Robinson in 2001. Now I will continue to the evidence. The authors view workaholism as an addiction through an Adlerian framework. Chevron in 1999 describes addiction as a something that is a chosen behavior that people use to avoid deeper and existential fears. So this helps explain why workaholism becomes something that feels difficult to control. The article also defines workaholism as compulsive overworking that begins to interfere with personal relationships and major life activities. And this definition is comes from Robinson, Carroll, and Flowers in 2001. Building on that, the article also connects workaholism to other aspects or other areas, such as physically, they'll begin to experience stress and exhaustion. It will also affect relationships, such as marital and family consequences, marital strain, family challenges. Another point would be an unhealthy work life balance. And to explain this, the authors combine several perspectives, including the Adlerian theory, the DSM 4 addiction criteria, and Dreiker's goals of misbehavior, and the overall changes in the modern workforce over time. These points help show how workaholism develops and how and why it continues. In the influence, the authors assume that the Adlerian theory would be the best way to understand workaholism. This framework focuses on the lifestyle, goals, and belonging of one, and it may also overlook other factors such as biology and workplace pressure. Another assumption would be that workaholism is a chosen and goal directed behavior. This can overlook things such as job insecurity and expectations from organizations. It also compares workaholism to addiction. And even though it's not officially recognized as an addiction in the DSM 5, because of that, the comparison has its limits how to be interpreted. The authors also briefly mention cultural and economic factors, and though they don't go in depth, it limits how much context can be included from that. And I'll explain my position on the article. Overall, the article provides a clear explanation of workaholism, and it combines ideas from different researchers. and it shows how workaholism affects individuals, but not only them, but their families and workplaces. And it does a good job at showing that. However, the article does not include original research or data, and it doesn't describe a sample, method, or measurements, which are important parts of scientific work itself. It also focuses mostly on the negative aspects and effects and does not discuss the protective factors or different types of workaholics. And because of this, the article is helpful for understanding the concept and idea of workaholism, but more research would be needed to help support these its claims and make its conclusions stronger. And in conclusion, overall, workaholism is something that affects a person's health, relationships, and daily life. And this article explains it very well through the Adlerian theory and shows how it impacts those many areas of life. However, because the article does not include empirical research, the conclusions are limited. More studies are needed to understand the protective factors, the workplace influences, and cultural differences. This would help support individuals and families affected by workaholism and give a clearer picture of how it develops. And to end the presentation, these are the references I use. I have from Shafran and Reyerson in 2011, Andreasen, Erson, and Erickson in 2007, Burke, Oberkleid, and Burgess in 2004, Robinson in 2000, Robinson Carroll and Flowers in 2001, yes, and Chamberlain and Sang in 2009. Thank you.